Hello, and welcome to part 3 of our series on Google Forms. This training is designed to give educators guidance on how to grade items and look at data critically on assessments. If you haven't watched previous videos in this series, we recommend you do so before watching this video. Links to these videos are in the description. By the end of this training, you should be able to set up and utilize grading features on Google Forms. One of the greatest benefits for educators using forms is the ability to set up automatic grading on some items and greatly speed up manual grading. However, before we can do that, we will have to change a few settings in Google Forms. We will use the previous example form and build upon it to show these features. To do this, we must start in the Settings menu, which is accessed by clicking the cog icon at the top right of the form. The general settings allows you to add basic features to limit and view who has used this form. Collecting email addresses assures that you will be able to tie a set of responses to an account, and you can even give them access to response receipts so they know they've submitted their answers successfully. You can also limit the domain to your specific work group if your account is tied to an organization like a school. This means students won't necessarily need their name because their identity is tied to a school username, which would be automatically recorded if you choose to collect emails as well. You can also limit to one response, which forces a user to log in and only allows that user to submit one response to your form, which is useful for quizzes and exams. The Edit After Submit option allows users to change their answers to the form. Finally, the Summary Charts and Text Responses box will allow the users to see all answers to the form summarized. This option can be useful for learning exercises, class discussions, polling in class, bell ringer activities, and exit tickets. Since this is an assessment, we'll keep those two options unchecked. The next part of the Settings tab is Presentation. The Show Progress Bar option will show the percentage of sections completed at the bottom of the page. The Shuffle Question Order will shuffle all items within a section. Be careful when using this option if you have sections set up in a specific order for a reason, such as our first section leading off with the movie poster because it relates to the other questions. The Show Link to Submit Another Response will be available if accepting more than one submission per person. This can be effective if you are setting this up as a tool to practice for mastery, where you can give students multiple attempts to succeed. The confirmation message is a message you can customize that will display once a form has been submitted. Finally is the Quizzes tab. Toggling the Make This a Quiz option will allow for grading on this form. You can set up when students can see their grade, either immediately or after you have a chance to review answers manually and release scores. You can also choose whether or not students can see what questions they've missed, what the correct answer was, and the points available and earned for each question. Click Save and go back to your form once you're satisfied with your settings. Now that we have quizzes enabled, let's set up some grading features. You'll notice when you click on any question item, you now see an answer key in the bottom left corner. If you click on this icon, it'll toggle to another view where you may assign a point value, select any correct answers, and even add feedback for the problem to explain to students the reasoning behind the answers. For our first item, we'll select the correct answers of the wicked and good witches. We'll assign the problem 2 points, and then we'll add feedback. Under feedback, you can include text, links, and videos for both correct and incorrect answers. You will see here that I have already included the feedback. Note that every item can have a point value assigned, but they will not all auto-grade. File upload, linear scale, paragraph, time, and date all will require manual review. Checkbox and checkbox grid will not give partial credit for selecting some, but not all choices. The answers must match exactly for credit to be given. Short answers will usually still require some amount of manual review, but you can add multiple correct answers for that. For example, for math, you can make short answers that can accommodate for rounding errors, or in other subjects you can add common misspellings. Your assessment is now ready for use. So use the Send to send the form, as we discussed in the first module, and have students take your new assessment. Or, if you'd rather, change your settings to allow multiple responses temporarily, and take it yourself a few times to populate it with mock data. Either way, once you have data, come back to this part of the video to follow along. For the data analysis and manual grading portion, you'll need some entries to be able to do so. As your students take this assessment, you will notice that the Responses tab has a number of responses, so go ahead and click on the tab to view the data. The spreadsheet icon will take you to a spreadsheet version of the data if you prefer to work with it in that fashion, but today we will focus on what we have here. The Accepting Responses toggle will enable or disable access to the form, which is useful if you don't want students waiting to go home to submit an assessment that was to be completed in class. The Summary tab will give you numerous at-a-glance statistics for overall scoring and breakdowns for each question. This not only helps you see how many students got something right, but frequency of incorrect responses. And this can help you find where students might be struggling. If you have many questions that are missed and Google's algorithm notices, it will automatically flag a few questions that were the most frequently missed right after the data is scored. If items require manual grading, you have two choices. If you prefer to grade student by student, click the Individual tab. This tab will allow you to scroll through and manually adjust scores and give direct feedback to a student. Use the arrows by the point values to adjust a score. Once done grading for one student, click the Save down at the bottom of the page. Then use either the next arrow or the drop-down menu with email addresses to navigate to another student. The benefit to this method is that you can give more personal feedback because you know which student it is. The downside to this is that knowing which student it is might lead to inherent bias in grading. This is why the Question tab is also available. The Question tab is the final way to grade questions. In this tab, you can navigate using the left and the right arrows to see responses to individual questions. You can then use either the check or the X to mark that response completely correct or incorrect. If you want to give partial credit, you can click on the score itself and type a new number. The benefit to grading this way is speed and then the reduction of bias. The only way to see which student response is to click the one response hypertext on the left of the response. You can still leave feedback for a question here individually if you wish. This concludes part 3 of our series on Google Forms. Additional resources are included in the links below the video. If you want to test your knowledge of these grading features, feel free to take our brief quiz over grading options and assessing data using our form included below. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to ask questions and share your ideas in the comments section. We hope this helps streamline the assessment and grading process in your classroom.